Welcome to In the N.O. We have a new member, but I'll give you the introduction after this.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson.
And Holiday, the dribble penetration. So tough going to the goal. High above the rim.
What's up, everybody? We have Jeremy Wilson, a.k.a. J-Dub, a.k.a. the one and only, the guy that has been a longtime friend of mine.
Yes.
Mason and I have been trying to get him on the pod a little bit. I think he's going to keep us more accountable when it comes to producing these shows. As you can see, I'm doing a summer show. Jeremy, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well. Just trying to, deal with this Pelicans basketball in the summertime.
That's impressive because the summertime basketball has not been good. They're 0-4.
Yes. As many wins as we have.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it used to be a pretty safe thing in the past where bet the over on the Pelicans summer team.
Yeah. Hey, Trey Murphy and Najee and Herb held us down for a couple of years, so at least we had that.
When we when that roster first came out, I think my gut reaction was like, "Oh no, I don't know who's going to dribble the ball."
That's my initial thought. Like, oh no, I put on Twitter, bad guard play is bad summer league basketball. Like, oh, have they proven us right?
Yeah, unfortunately for the way the roster is constructed right now, the guard play is important, right? Hawkins needs someone to help get him going to kind of initiate some of those sets. So to take full advantage of his movement shooting, Missi, Carlo, those guys are above the rim finishers, hard rollers. They need people to get them going. So we'll get into the meat of how they've looked. I think let's start off with Jordan Hawkins, the veteran of the group. Year two player. Year one didn't have the greatest summer league. Year two has been kind of a mixed bag. But what has been your opinion on how Hawkins has looked over the last 4 games?
All right. So my opinion for all second year players in summer league is I need you to dominate. I need you to prove that you shouldn't even be here. I was say Jordan Hawkins hasn't done that. Still love the aggressiveness. Still love that he's willing to attack. But there's also the other sides of is he just too small to do what he wants to do? That's my number one question coming into this summer league, and he really hasn't answered that.
Yeah, look, I think it's fair. The Pelicans had a Jalen Crutcher injury right before summer league kicked off. He was supposed to be one of their main guards who can set folks up. When that happened, it kind of pushed Hawkins into a more dribble-oriented role. And look, the handles looked weak.
Look, yes.
I don't want to sugarcoat it.
Dejounte Nick said, "Come here, boy," and went the other way immediately. First play of the game.
First play of the game. Yeah, no, it's and then when the Pelicans faced ball pressure, like when they played Memphis, Scottie Pippen Jr., G.T. Jackson, a few of those other guys who've just
looked like his dad. Scottie Pippen looked like his dad when he was facing our guards.
Yeah, man, it was not good. It reminded me of when the Pelicans had Grievous Vasquez. He would turn his back to the basket at half court.
I even said that Ford looks like slower version Rivers Vasquez, and take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, no. So just kind of bringing it back to Hawk, the dribbling has been not great, right? He's been able to push off his line. The handle's been sloppy. There's been turnovers. I think because of that, he's had to work tremendously hard to get to the spots that he wants to get to and get to the shots that he wants to get to. The movement has been a breath of fresh air. Just watching the Pelicans over the last few years, they don't have a lot of guys that move like him, and even in this context, it jumps off the screen. He's sprinting, off of screens. He's running guys around, and unfortunately for him, because there's no one to set him up, because there's no one to really get into the spot he needs to go, a lot of that movement ends up turning into a low value shot. I think one that sears, that's seared into my brain is. It wasn't the Memphis game. It was the game before that. He was running around 4 or 5 screens and trying to shake his guy. And all it amounted to was a pull-up midi for him. Yeah. And it was just that was so much effort expended for not a good shot. And I think with the senior team, it looks a lot different. We saw it with the Matt Ryan, CJ shooter heavy group, right? That lineup where it's like, okay, now you got to count for all these other dudes. CJ the vet being able to get people in the sets, JV attracting attention on the roll. That unit made sense. Do you think, what we're seeing from Hawk here in the summer league context is the floor, or do you think like he actually has room to make a bigger splash coming into the season? And yeah, I mean, like, what are your thoughts on with that?
Coming in, is it the floor? I believe so because he's still a young kid. He still has room to grow within this offense, within this team. But if we know that he can move almost JJ Redick, Buddy Hield like off screens, and excuse me, sorry about that. He can move off screens in that manner and free himself up with much better ball handlers and dribble handoff options. He can do damage in his offense when needed.
Yeah, no, look, I'm with you. I think his catch and shoot numbers this past year were okay. They weren't amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like around 38.8% on catch and shoots. The way his role is going to work, in my opinion, is he's going to have to take a lot more of these catch and shoots, and they're going to generate them a lot, right? With Z being a high volume 3-point generator, with Dejounte being a high volume 3-point generator, with their desire to incorporate these roll men, these lob men, those threes are going to be on the table, and we know he's not shy at all in getting them up. So, like, I think if he's crossing that 40% threshold, it's way more likely he trends towards being a positive impact player. Because look, I did a little video on this today about the historic impact of these kind of players, guys who are historically under 6'6". Their primary skill set is getting threes up, and what else they do on the court is a mixed bag. And history has not been kind to those kind of players. And for Jordan to truly make his mark on this team, he has to be sniper level elite from three, or he has to figure out how to impact the game on the defensive end, on the boards, turnover generation, playmaking, whatever it is, become a more well-rounded player.
And I think he has desire, especially defensively. He has desire to do it, but again, goes back to questioning: is his body able to hold up to these bigger offensive wings to actually make an impact defensively?
So I'm gonna put you in an awkward spot already. It's your first time here. I have to ask you a tough question.
Go ahead.
If you're Willie Green, and let's say hypothetically, you've already made the tough decision to bring CJ off the bench.
Okay.
And you hated making that decision. Okay. Now you got Jose and Hawkins vying for minutes at the other guard spot. Who's getting those minutes primarily?
I think I'm going to start with Hawk. Win the job, young man. Win the job for me. Because if you don't win the job, I know this little dude is going to take the job from you. He did it last year. So go win the job for me. Please go win the job.
That's completely fair. I feel like, based on Willie's history, we're gonna see Jose. We're gonna see Jose out there.
And he's gonna say, "Look at his all numbers from last year. Trust me, I need this guy because he impacts winning." That's what he's gonna tell you.
That's exactly what he's gonna tell you. It's like, look, we want to be a team that embraces analytics more. Jose's analytics pop. They do.
Look how red this red is. Look how red and orange his winning is.
Exactly. And he wins his minutes. And look, in fairness to Jose, like, I think he should get a shot too, right? He played his role to a T. And last year, no matter how many of us, including myself, like, whined and ballyhooed about like, Jose shouldn't get minutes. Nazi shouldn't get minutes. You need to play Dyson. You need to play Hawkins. And I was part of that. And, those guys went out there and won their minutes. They did their job.
Almost every game, they flipped the script. Him, Jose, Najee, Trey from last year. If we were in a deficit because the starting lineup wasn't the greatest, they came in and turned the game on his head, and it was smooth sailing almost from the second quarter on with their energy and defense.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Looks like we may have lost Jeremy for a second here. Hold on. We're going to get him back. Here we go. We got him back.
There we go. Hey, I'm in a hotel. It's been a long night, so I'm trying.
It's all good, man. Look, I got Cox out here, and every time it rains, the Wi-Fi starts
Oh
quivering.
Lord, that's not. I'm gonna leave New Orleans where it is just for the weekend.
Yeah, man, you enjoy it. You enjoy Atlanta, but yeah, look, I think they're certainly going to have rotation choices. They have lost a lot of these dudes that do the dirty work,
Yes,
um, and so there may be a desire to compensate and play more of the remaining guys who do it. And Jose is one of them.
yes,
I'm with you, man. I hope Hawk can win that job, and it'd be excellent because his fit with Zion and the others is natural,
and I
and
don't not.
you want them to get as many minutes as possible, and willing to not have a choice, frankly.
Yes, yes, and not only if the schematic fit. This guy is going to be a free agent next year. You're supposed to be here. We need you to take this job and win this job for the betterment of the franchise, not for this year, but also the next couple of years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, these kind of wins can change the course of a of a franchise as they get more expensive, which the
Yes,
Pelicans already are. And
are expensive. Yes,
look, I think we're gonna have a lot of time to kind of discuss the Pelicans roster issues.
yes.
Let's bring the let's bring the conversation back to summer league. The other draft pick they have Yves Missi,
Hmm.
drafted 21. A lot of strong reactions from the fan base off the 21st pick. We'll leave that there for now. Let's talk about how he's looked game 1 through game 4. Just what have you noticed?
I've noticed that he has progressed better game by game. The first game, he looked like a fish out of water. He looked like a guy who hasn't played basketball. He's only played basketball in 4 or 5 years. By game 4, you saw him impacting on the board. You saw him be an issue on the defensive end for the opponent. He was blocking shots. He was causing havoc. He was even defending on the perimeter pretty decently in some games. So you can saw the progression in his play. And buddy, does he get above the rim? Man, if the ball is loose, if the ball comes off the glass, or if you put the lob up there, we're gonna have some fun.
What's impressed me is his relative motor. He's got the tools. There's no question about it. He works,
Yes,
and sometimes that shows up in a way where he works too much at the wrong thing because he doesn't know what to do, right? Sometimes when you have the tools, all that means is you get to the wrong spot faster. Right. So I think that I'm optimistic is going to get cleaned up as he's exposed to the game. And, like as we talked about, he's set up with better creators
yes, yes.
and better guards. One thing I've noticed is, David Griffin, or was it Bryson, one of them two, on the draft night press conference, he said he just gets out of the way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little bit of a backhanded compliment when they first said it. I was like, okay, wait a minute.
He doesn't do his
But
job. What do you mean he gets out the way?
he lets the other guys do their job. But I think watching him in the summer league context, it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
He's screening, rolling hard, trying to seal his man, and then moving out the way. He's trying not to clog
Yes.
as much as
Yeah.
possible. Now he's been every time he's asked to do more than just immediately dunk the ball, it's a choose your own adventure. It's a choose your own adventure.
Hey, you have the right to take mid-range jumpers. Sometimes you shouldn't exercise that right.
Yo, when he took that first pull up, he completely missed
Oh man.
the whole rim, the whole backboard.
Hey. You only get one chance to do this, I guess. You might as well take your opportunity.
Man, it reminded me of like some of those videos where they have like, like DeAndre Jordan or like JaVale McGee decide to like shoot a three,
Yes,
like,
yes.
cause like, why not?
The Mitchell Robinson hezzy tween some of videos. Don't
Yeah,
you love them?
where's the Karl Anthony Towns like?
Al Horford at the free throw line when he took that shot.
Oh my god. Yeah. So look, the jumper work in progress. We'll be kind there, and everything else though. Look, his job on the senior team, if he gets minutes, is going to be run and dunk the ball.
Yes.
I wish he was a little bit better of a defensive rebounder. I think some of that's going to come with strength and again experience. I do think he's not shy in boxing dudes out.
Yes.
So I've been impressed by that. Has there been like a play or any moment that stood out to you with Yves?
I want to say in I think it was the last game. It's just his effort on the offensive glass has really impressed me in ways I didn't think it would. Like he goes up and he works and he grinds off of misses and tries to make a play. He doesn't, try to run back on defense or look for a highlight. No, he just wants to work, especially on the offensive glass.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I think, draft night, when he was picked, there was a natural tendency to kind of compare him to Jackson.
Yes.
And I made the comparison too, just in terms of raw numbers, prospect to prospect. Jackson, he had better college stats and better measurables coming in, and I think you have thoughts on why Jackson isn't a fair comparison. So I would like you to share them.
Well, the first thing is this: one was drafted 8th, one was drafted 22nd, and if Jackson was drafted 17th instead of 8th, I think we have a completely different view on who he is. You have to draft those traits if they're available. If you don't have a surefire plug and play starter at late lottery or late in the first round, he's a 1% generational talent on athletically. So you have to draft the traits. I would have drafted Jackson Hayes at 22nd. But Missi is, if you're comparing him to Jackson Hayes, he's Jackson Hayes with a good head on his shoulders. We have plenty of evidence to say that Jackson Hayes wasn't ready to be an adult. This guy, Yves Missi, seems to be ready to take the challenges on of being a professional basketball player in ways that Jackson still hasn't. Still, I haven't seen one IG clip on for Yves yet. So that should tell you the differences of maturity.
Come on, man.
Hey, man, we gonna be real here.
No, for sure. Look, yeah, Jackson. He's entering his 6th year, drafted along with Zion.
Shouts out to player options.
Yep. Hey, shout out player options. Shout out Lakers. Look, he's entering his 6th year. He has not been a positive player yet, and I think for a lot of the reasons you listed, right? Mm-hmm. He has the tools. It's the other stuff that needs work on. And look, as much as people like to ding the Pelicans front office on the good human, good people type thing,
it works.
It certainly comes into.
It works. We can be real here. Herb is a good person for all things considered. Trey is a good person for all things considered. Jose is a competitor, but he's a good person. We don't want that. We talk about the live, laugh, love Pelicans, but they've been winning every year since that 2021 draft class of, for all we know, good people, as David Griffith likes to tell us time and again.
Yeah, look, I think it is one of the safer routes because you don't necessarily tap into the higher ends of variance. You don't get the 99th percentile outcomes for some of these folks, but in order to get those 99th percentile outcomes for like, let's say, for example, a Jalen Green, you have to be comfortable with the 50th percentile outcome, the 25th percentile outcome, and lower. And, like, what does that mean? So if you're willing to spend the 3rd overall or the 2nd overall pick on Jalen Green, and he's turned out to be what he is currently, which is not an efficient basketball player, someone who hasn't moved the needles towards winning, is that a gamble you're okay on? And I think people fall on different lines of that philosophy because, look, sometimes you just need to hit on one of them, and that's it.
Yep.
So you take as many swings as you can, you hit on one of them, and that's it. Sometimes it's like, look, we don't have the liberty to wait that long. We just kind of have to take, we just
a high floor and hope that we tap into some sort of potential later on the road.
Exactly, especially if you've had a person like Zion, who I'm not saying doesn't fall in the good person category, but someone who's been a challenge to deal with his first 4 years, and by all accounts is rapidly trending upwards.
Yes.
But those first 3 years, it's no secret that the Oregon and Z weren't necessarily on the same page. Z wasn't on the court at all. And that creates issues when you have a guy that's already not on the court and you're trying to build a team around him. Then maybe your risk aversion ramps up a little bit, because you're just like, cool, we need more of a sure thing here while we're waiting on the variance on that. And I think bringing that back to Missi, I don't see how anyone could call him a safe pick.
No, I don't get that at all. You are betting on the high upside of, is he DeAndre Jordan? If you can find prime DeAndre Jordan at the 22nd overall pick, you do it 100 times out of 100. I'm not talking about the guy in Denver, the guy in the Clippers. Like, that guy he made All NBA. You try to find that type of talent late in the draft if you can.
Look, you try to find that type of talent late in the draft, and you're happy if it turns into a Daniel Gafford, which
Yes.
I'm not happy about that for different reasons. You're happy if it turns into a rotational player, a rotational big who has capability to start.
Yes.
The goal is he become that player while still under contract with the Pelicans. Because ultimately, to me, if you pick a guy at 21 and it takes him 7 years to develop on their fourth team, I don't think you get credit for that win, right?
Fair.
And sometimes that's just a journey for a lot of NBA players, and that's just how the draft works. So there has to be a little bit of comfort in, okay, if this doesn't work out by a certain time, maybe we just look a different direction. The Pelicans already kind of did that with Dyson.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Like, Dyson is the prime example of, maybe even the kill if you want to go that far, of we don't have the time. We're trying to win now for multiple reasons that we won't get into because it's about Summer League. But we need to make a transaction. We can't wait on your development. We need to go for the here and now. And for your sake, I hope you make it in your next destination.
Yeah, absolutely. In both those situations, they went after a clear-cut need at the guard position. You know, they brought in the CJ, who has turned the team around from when he stepped on the court to now. Like, you know, they made the playoffs that year in large part due to the addition of CJ. What he's done, you know, off the court really can't be discounted. And as much as people like to bag on his relative shortcomings in higher leverage moments and in the playoffs.
I'm putting this right now. I'm not people. We're going to get into that later, but I'm not people.
Right. I'm just saying, as much as people like to bag on that, he was one of the league's best shooters last year. He was, in my opinion, the Pelicans' first half MVP, while Z and BI were figuring their stuff out. Z getting in shape, BI, figuring stuff out.
Yes.
And I thought the Pelicans don't win 49 if they don't get that performance out of CJ. So I would move Nikhil and Hart and all of that in a heartbeat, for when the Pelicans did it. The same concept here. You're moving Larry, you're moving Dyson, a couple of these picks that you're not terribly excited about. And you get Dejounte, and you've identified a need at lead guard. In which, speaking of Dejounte, you had a really good video thread on Dejounte. Just while we're on that topic, I feel like it's a seamless transition.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to Carlo and all that in a second. But what were your main takeaways when you sat down and watched Dejounte?
The first takeaway was, let me hold myself accountable. If I'm wrong in my thought process, I need to see it by my own two eyes. Buddy, was I wrong?
What was your thought process?
My thought process was that it was more of usage and not playmaking. And I remember the time in San Antonio. I'm not going to say that I was watching 50, 60 Hawks games last season. I might have watched like 15. A lot of them were with Trey and Dejounte, but they had some games that I watched. Shouts out to the comeback against Boston. But was the playmaking real? Oh, this is just a man who had the ball in his hand a lot. The guy can get his teammates open passes. He sets them up to get the ball on time and on target. If it's it may not be exciting, It's not the hit away pass that you see Luka in the post and throw it almost behind his back. It's not, Trey and lobs, but it's, hey, you need the ball here in the shooter's pocket. I get it to you. Big man, you need the ball, the pocket pass. I have it right here at this angle at the perfect time, and you'll get an easy bucket. And our offense needs that. We haven't had a guy that got to get the playmakers of the stars easy baskets since Lonzo. So even if you just get a small upgrade, what I think is going to be bigger than that, but if you get an upgrade in playmaking to get guys easier shots, it's going to pay dividends in this offense.
I'm 100% with you, and I think one thing that stood out to me was he is in general good at maximizing that role man. You talked about the pocket pass, just being able to find the bigs on their role. That to me is a natural pairing with Z. I think because Dejounte has the ability to take a screen, turn the corner, and be a threat to score. And then, if Z's going to take two on the roll, Dejounte is going to have a number of options to score. Hopefully he doesn't settle for that first immediate midi. That's kind of the thing here, right? He took a good number of threes last season. He seems to be pretty proud of the fact that he works on the game. I asked him at the introductory presser. So if they set the screens high enough, which they should, in my opinion, he'll be able to get to the 3-point line and pull from there. And he was more than willing to pull from the 3-point line.
More than willing. He is not afraid to shoot the basketball.
Right. And so what's going to happen is if he pulls enough, it's going to draw the big to the level of the screen, right? If you're going to sit in deep drop, he's going to pull. And I think he has the ability to get hot. The whole thing about 3-point shooting is variance statistically comes into play if you take a lot of attempts. And a guy who is a 35% shooter, if he takes 8 attempts a game, there is a more than 50% chance he's going to have a positive outcome, which means he's going to hit more than 37.5% of his threes, which is like crazy, but that's just how the stats end up like playing out over like large enough samples, right?
And he took 9.3 when Trey was not on the court. So like again, he is more than willing to take those shots.
Right. And what's going to happen is because I think teams are going to make the mental calculation. We got to take away Z. We got to take Z away. And so when they take Z away, he'll have a number of options, whether to pull from that 3, get to his midi, get a foot in the paint, kick out, whatever it is. He'll have options, and I'm excited to see that play out. And I think if they're not taking away Z, it's going to be some of the easiest baskets you've seen. Or Z gets a little pocket pass and he's kicking it to corners and
please give Zion 4-on-3. Please give Zion a 4-on-3 opportunity in the short roll. I'm begging for it.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty excited for that. But like I think, you take Z out of the equation. Let's try to tie this back in the summer league. A guy like Carlo, any kind of vertical lob threat. He played with Capella, he played with Onyeka, he played with John Collins even before. Murray doesn't necessarily throw a ton of lobs, but he's really good at hitting that pocket pass. And he can do it one-handed, two-handed, at different angles. His length allows him to get around that digging big. Like sometimes when these bigs are backpedaling, they're jabbing, they're digging, they're doing all that stuff. And he can hit that. And if someone's willing to roll hard like Carlo, we might see some posters.
What he did to San Antonio in the summer league was it was criminal. He took one guy. I sorry, I'm not remembering your name in summer league. No disrespect. Pursue your dreams, right? But my man San Antonio, and he just woke me up. I was at the job and just the head top. Even in my notes, I literally have Carlo head top, 3 exclamation points, 2:45 in the second quarter. That was the entire play description for me. So yes, if he can get Carlo on the pocket pass, I saw where he with Dejounte with Bruno when he did. It wasn't just Clint. Even when Okongwu was out, he gets his bigs opportunities to shine with the pocket pass as much as I would prefer the lob. This is with the pocket pass.
Yeah, look, just talking about Carlo for a second here,
Mm-hmm.
the Pelicans gave him our full roster spot with the senior team. Now, I think we can argue about the merits of whether he's good enough to be in that roster spot or not. It's the 14th man, right? Like
Yes,
it's
yes.
or the 13th man. Like at the end of the day, if you're relying on a rookie second round pick at that to move the needle, your team is probably in a bad spot.
You're already in trouble. You're already in trouble.
Anyway, and we're we can get into the whole center rotation thing.
Another day.
Maybe later on in a later date.
Yeah.
But what I think is important here is they used the second round pick exception to sign Carlo. They are now a few $100,000 over that tax line. And what that second round pick exception does is it allows them to sign these guys to a teeny tiny cap hit below what would be the league minimum. And that really helps them out. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like that with Antonio Reeves as well, because it's a teeny tiny cap hit.
Okay.
And in the event that they are over the tax and they remain over the tax, it's more dollars saved, right? It's more dollars saved. It's more breathing room under the apron, which they are now capped at because the first apron, by the way, because of the Dejounte Murray trade. And it also gives you, that much of wiggle room when you do a trade to get under the tax, right? Because you have a smaller cap hit, you may have to do a little less to get back under the tax. So there are probably equal parts basketball reasons and financial reasons why he was given and that roster spot. And I'm, just like we said with Hawk, I hope you win your minutes, man.
Yes. Win your minutes, win the job if need be. But more importantly, congratulations. Like, you worked hard. I remember you proved me wrong. You worked hard. You got this roster spot. And getting a roster spot and then following it up with your best summer league, that does mean something to me.
Yeah, look, when he was in that first summer league, he was interesting because he had a dunk or two.
Fish out of water.
He can jump, but I don't know what else he can do.
Yes.
And he went and played overseas. Came back, played in Birmingham. I remember when he came back last year, the kind of talk around him was the overseas program that he was a part of didn't necessarily do a good job of developing him as a basketball player.
Yes.
So they were hoping that they would get him into Birmingham, they'd get him into their own building, and some of that basketball knowledge would start to soak in a little bit. And certainly seems like it has.
It has. Yeah, that's in my opinion. And when you have a crazy, our mutual friend Adam, when you have a Carlo crazy, tell you, man, he's improved from what you saw, and then he shows it to you. That feels good. Like we may need you, as we'll discuss later on in the summer. We may need you. So it's good to see that he has improved since, going overseas and coming back.
Yeah, dude. And look, the thing that surprised me the most is relative comfort making decisions with the ball in his hands, right? Like we said about Missi being a choose your own adventure, it's been a stark contrast with Carlo. You give him the ball at the top of the key. He reads what cuts are happening, what actions are going on. Is he going to make a pass from there? Is he going to do a ball reversal? Some of that, hub stuff. I'm not saying this guy is like Sabonis or anything.
No, but he was helping Jordan with the dribble handoff. One play at the top of the key. He made a bounce pass on a cutter for an easy layup. Like, you saw real functional basketball moves along with the obvious athleticism where he can jump out the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And again, similar to all of these guys, I hope that when they get to the senior team and they play with a lot more talented players and their roles are more clearly defined, that they're able to excel because, all three of the guys that we've talked about have a skill that a lot of people don't possess, or a trait that a lot of people don't possess. Hawk can move in a way a lot of people can't move and get his jumper off in a hurry. Both those bigs can jump and they also have good motor. And so it's just when I look back to the Stan Van Gundy year, and Zion had in his bench units Kyra, Nikhil, Hart, Melly.
Yes.
Or if it wasn't Melly, it was Jackson. And if it wasn't Jackson, it was James Johnson.
Hey, shout out to the OG Jay Jossie. He
Shout
gave
out
me
to
faith in He gave me faith in basketball again during those last couple months.
And those units destroyed
Yes,
opponent
yes,
teams
yes,
in
yes.
in a large part. Like look, when a superstar is being a superstar, you can just put whatever out there. We've seen this with Jokic over the years. The years that he won 48 games and like Jamal was injured and MPJ was injured and they were playing
Monty Morris and
Facundo
Francesco.
Campazzo.
Yes.
So a lot of this is going to fall on how good is Zion going to be. And I mean Zion specifically. Like there's no player.
There's no
on
other
the
player.
roster.
There's one guy who has the talent to be a first team All NBA guy, and this team is going to go as far as that one guy takes them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, look, I'm definitely excited. I'm apprehensive again for the aforementioned center rotation and just there not being a great precedent for having a center rotation where you have under, like $6 million invested total. It's a little bit spooky to me. And look, it's not for a want of trying.
Yes.
There's something we got to call out here is I think there's a tendency to say, hey, they're not trying, or they're just because Griff will go on TV and he'll be like, look, I'm happy going small, or is really sad. Look, that's his job.
He's posturing. And that's a great segue we could do to the article we talk about, the Mac Issa article, where he brings concerns about the roster fit and the lack of centers.
Wait, let me pause
you
real quick.
Go ahead.
Because we talked about this offline, introducing it to our audience. Matt Issa, great writer.
It was a great article. It was a great
covers
article.
A lot of teams in depth. He wrote an article recently, and he called out a lot of concerns about the Pelicans' fit and the moves they did and how they don't make sense to him. And so this is what Jeremy's about to talk about.
So again, he made it. He wrote it for Forbes. On its face, it is a good article that I really wish would have been published in October. Every time I see the concerns, my number one question is it October 1st? Did I lose parts of the calendar? Did I sleep through 2 months? More importantly, did I sleep through my son's birthday? Because I promised him a sleepover next week, and if I miss that, I'm going to be in trouble. So I just need these concerns to be quelled just a little bit. Transactions don't end in July. We want them to happen in July. We want the roster to be concrete and settled in July. Every team does. Donovan Mitchell wasn't moved into September. Damian Lillard wasn't moved in September. Granted, the guy that we want moved, I got to sugarcoat it. Brandon Ingram is the biggest concern. He isn't moved now. He isn't on the caliber as those players. But it's July, not October. When training camp comes, I am more than happy to address these concerns because they are concerns. Now, you have to admit that.
Yeah, no, and look, I wrote about similar concerns as well, right? I was like, look, the Pelicans right now, they're planning on taking Brandon Ingram into the season without a contract, right? I think they would love to agree to something that is short of a max. I think it's a little unclear what that number is, but it's not going to be one of those things where it's like, it's a haircut, right? No, I think they're looking. I think there's a gap between the two sides, and because if there wasn't, there would be a deal done.
Right? Yes,
and likewise, if there wasn't a gap like that, then other teams would be more interested in Ingram as well, because the whole issue is the dollars.
Let me cut you off. If we're going to delve into this, would you sign him to an extension?
That's not a yes or no question.
Hey, you hit me on the spot with something. I had to ask that.
Would I sign him to an extension if it was an extension of his 25% deal and he remained at that cap hit? Absolutely.
Yes. So I brought it up on Twitter. I put the figures out there. I'm not completely the smartest guy, but it was a rough estimate of like 4 years, $172 million or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If he was to agree on just adding the 8% escalators on his deal, you would sign him to that 4 year. Would you sign him to 4 years? Would you sign him to 2 years?
4. Absolutely.
You sign him to all 4.
Yeah.
Just on the talent, because we can talk about him as a fit. As a talent, EPM had him as a top 60 player. Top 60 players get maxes for the most part on the free market. You're going to get a max of something close to the max. So you would do it.
There's 30 teams. Assume 2 max players per team.
And there you go.
There
and
you go.
just common, mathematics. So I asked myself that question. I wouldn't do it. And I'm a Brandon Ingram supporter. I will put myself on the record. I will put my Twitter handle out at the end of this. I'm allowed him out. I'll have no problem telling you about yourself. I would not sign him to an extension, and I'll go one step further. I don't want him on the team in October.
Why?
I need Dejounte and Zion and the wings to understand it's y'all team. It's y'all team. Y'all are going to take us as far as we can. I understand Brandon the talent. I understand Brandon the person, because all things considered, no issues with the front office, no issues with the coaching or anything. I need those 4 guys to understand they're the core without interruption.
Fair enough. Look, the reason I would do it is I think that's a very movable contract. I'm not doing it in mind with, okay, this is going to be my core guy moving forward.
That's a very large human trade exception. That's all I'll say.
That's not how I would put it, but yes. Look, he at that rate, he would, if it wasn't 4 years, if we brought it down to 3,
okay,
if it was 2 or 3, he would qualify for the extended trade rules. And the way the extended trade rules work are that there's no 6-month limitation.
Okay. In
order to get him moved. And the Pelicans could also, if he was agreeable to that number, they could sign him to that. One small point of technicality, can't be the 8% raises, it has to be 5%.
Okay.
But so 1 less year, slightly smaller raises, but general concept of hey, if he was willing to still be at that 25% cap hit, with 5% raises, which again is his team does not want to be a part of. But if he was willing to do that, the Pelicans could tell, say, Cleveland or a different team, look, we got him ready to take this deal. We can send him to you immediately. We don't got to worry about waiting until, having that August 6th deadline.
Yes.
So he can be moved by February 6th, that 6-month buffer, none of that. But I also think that does buy them time to experiment. Hey, we all think that this Dejounte Brandon stuff is just not going to work. But Brandon said he needs a point guard. And
that is true.
And so if mentally it makes him more comfortable taking some of these shots that we want him to take, a Brandon Ingram at a 25% rate that's taking 6-7 threes a game, that's a valuable player.
That's a valuable player. That he is.
That's a very valuable player. Now I'm with you on the wings, man. I'm with you. Trey Starting's a non-negotiable for me.
Yes.
In any scenario, that's a non-negotiable for me. But I would be open to those constructs, which again, Brandon Ingram and his team are not open to those constructs. So we are in this waiting game of cool. I think while we're talking on Brandon, let me touch on his market briefly, and then we can wrap this podcast up.
Right.
I think there are a few things at play here. One, I think the Pelicans are waiting out Cleveland, and Cleveland has a number of things to sort out. They have to negotiate this Mobley max, which they seem to be haggling over either the player option or the Rose Rule escalators. And look, I wasn't given the player option. There's been no max player in his class that's gotten one yet. Zion didn't get one. Brandon didn't get one. A lot of these, only the top players have gotten one, like Mitchell. He got one. And I don't even know if Ant got one. I got to look at that one.
I think Ant is 5 flat. I think Ant's 5 flat too.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a great precedent for getting that player option. Now, those Rose Rule escalators, I think you and I both agree. If he's
I give it to him.
Player, just give it to him.
Yo, man, I don't understand the haggling over the Rose Rule things. First of all, Franz got one, which is going to tell everyone who's better than Franz in that class, hey, I should get it. But more importantly, if you think the Magic went about it the correct way, you think he's a max guy, give him the max, give him the Rose Rule. If he doesn't hit it, he's a max guy. We agree on that. If he does hit it, so he's a top 15 player in the NBA. Give him the Rose Rule money. Like it's simple as that.
Positionless now, right? It's
Yes,
not one of those things where
yes,
Embiid got hurt, Jokic got hurt, whatever.
He's a top 15 player. He's a top 15 player who has played the correct amount, the appropriate amount of games, 65 games, to qualify for this. That's what you want out of your fourth-year player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got no qualms about that. But yeah, they got to sort out the Mobley situation.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to dump people right now, right? Niang contract, a little bit tricky right now. Levert's a candidate to be dumped. He's an expiring, probably easier to be moved. Okoro is a restricted free agent. They haven't signed yet, and part of the reason they're trying to dump people is so they can create this valuable room under the apron to so be able to do something with Okoro, whether that's to sign and trade him, whether that's to keep him, whatever it is. It gives them flexibility. I've heard rumblings that they would be open to moving Strus just to lower some of these financial constraints. I don't think it's like their preferred pathway, but certainly like looking into all these options, right? So they have a number of things to take care of before they circle back on what are we doing with Jared Allen. And I think it is painfully obvious that Mobley is a 5.
Yes.
And if he is a 5 that you're investing Rose Rule escalator money into, then you want to play him at the 5.
At the 5, yes.
Right. All this talk about, they're just going to stagger minutes and blah, blah, blah. That's the same thing as Griff saying, we're going to play small.
Exactly. Hey, guys, it's July. They're pastoring. They're lying to you. They're lying directly in your faces.
Right. So I think the Pelicans are comfortable waiting this situation out. And by comfortable, I mean taking it to February. Right? Yep. Until they feel like Allen is off the table or a better option presents itself. Maybe this Lowry stuff doesn't work out for Golden State and someone wants to pony up a ton of picks, something like that. Or, I know Utah has been a little bit difficult to gauge for teams. I know they expressed interest in Brandon very, very, very early on in the process. Maybe when this Lowry stuff is over and they sign Lowry to this extension, they're like, well, we can't tank for Cooper Flag now. Let's go get another dude. They got some interest. They got picks that they can probably be okay giving up, and they got salary pieces that make sense for the Pelicans. But until a better option than Jared Allen comes along, I think the Pelicans are going to stay put. They're not going to rip the Band-Aid off that I think a lot of people would have a greater appetite in doing. Like I would be like, all right, bro, it's September training camps, or like it's September 30th training camp.
Yes.
Your preseason starts October 1 or whatever. I'm not making these dates up, but general time frame.
Yeah.
Cool. Give me the expiring contracts that have like no value and whatnot. Let me just.
That's where I am now.
That's where I'm at too. And I'm just like, look, I think the risk is far greater. But if you're a team that fully believes that Cleveland's posturing and you believe in the conversations you've had with them over the last 3 years,
yes,
that they've been after for Allen for that long, then you probably feel comfortable waiting stuff out.
And the Dejounte Murray deal tells you if Griff loves the guy, he's not going to stop until he gets his guy.
Yeah, so I think right now eyes are on Cleveland, but I don't think things are going to get resolved anytime soon there. Like they said, they were the ones that took Donovan Mitchell in September. Like that's when they traded for Mitchell. The Lowry Markkanen stuff has a fixed date. August 6th is when the deadline for Markkanen to renegotiate and extend. And I've heard rumors of where he's just going to sign it on the 7th. So that takes his name out of trade rumors for the whole year.
Makes sense. Makes sense for him. Yep.
Yeah. That 6th date is important for Brandon as well, because that is also the final date where the Pelicans can ink him to an extension and move him in February, unless it's the extended trade rules where it's 3 years or less and 120% off his last year or less, 5% raises or less, so big qualifiers. So yeah, I think those are all important dates, and I don't expect anything to shake loose until August. Even though Utah just made a trade, they got the infinite pick trade glitch with Russell Westbrook.
They keep trading for Russ, and everyone who knows Russ in Utah immediately sees that like, well, he's not staying there too long. We know how that ends up.
single game in that city, man.
No, we is not playing 1 second in that city.
But yeah, look, I think look. I don't mean to come off as Jared Allen's the only thing that they're looking into. I think there's a number of things that they're looking into, but none of them are likely to happen soon, right? Again,
they need a wing. We need a big. They have a surplus of bigs. We have a surplus of wings. It makes too much sense.
Right. And part of Cleveland's issues is like they got Garland on the max and he didn't have a market either. And so maybe they have to sort that out too. And I think going back to the Pelicans, like I think they've looked into Kessler. I think they've looked into some of these other bigs, and it's just a matter of teams aren't willing to rush into a deal at the moment for those kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to like, all right, man, we're going to put Hawkins and 2 picks on the table for Kessler. That'd be a terrible trade, right? Like the way some people are talking about like, oh, why don't they just go get Kessler? It's like, you don't understand Danny Ainge. You don't understand.
You don't understand Danny Ainge, and I'm gonna need y'all to watch some Kessler film. Like,
yeah, look, he's solid. I think he would improve the team.
He would improve the team because he's a quality professional NBA center who has soaked starting minutes at one point or another.
Yeah, and he's an elite rim protector. Elite.
Mm-hmm.
Elite.
And then you've just been told the last 2 years the Pelicans need rim protection. This guy can protect the rim.
Right.
So
his
get
salary
him.
Makes
and
sense.
he's a small salary. Yep.
It makes a lot of sense on a lot of fronts. It's just, again, how many assets are you putting on the table for a one position big who can't shoot? You know, it's just like, I think the Pelicans are making the correct calculation and not to rush into that kind of stuff, letting some other things shake out. I think some of these deals might be available at the deadline. Look, if you're forced to move off of CJ's salary and attach picks, Claxton's going to be there at the deadline, right? Like there are things where you're like, if my net output is 2 picks, why don't I just attach it to CJ and go get Claxton?
Yes.
Or, something else, right? So
and let me finish this. I want to look away from the camera and to my mic. Do not deal with Danny Ainge.
Do not believe in his lies.
No.
I'm gonna end it on that note. Jeremy, this has been a hell of a debut. I'm so excited to continue this with you, man.
And I'm excited to be here. I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time. And when you hit me up on that text, I was like, I have nothing to lose. I'm tired of arguing with some of you guys on Twitter. I can get out my takes on this forum. And then you can get mad at me after you hear me.
Exactly. That is why we are here. And
yes.
Thanks for listening, everybody.